Praise the Lord, guys. I'm still sitting in the same place. So we're moving on to point number 2 of the things that every Christian parent should know, should do for their children. So moving on to point number 2. I've got a book here. I wrote these things down as they were coming to my head. The number 2, the second thing that every Christian parent should be able to do or know about their parent is that you should fight or find out a way to gain insight into your children's spiritual world, or what is going on in the spiritual life of your children, right? And this is why it's very, very important. As Christians, first of all, as you already know, we are supposed to be able to do a spiritual mapping or have an awareness of the things that have lived in our families or things that run in our families. As an adult, as a Christian, one of the things you should know, and I know this, a lot of these things I'm going to be relating to my own family of where I come from, because that's how partly I've come to analyze these things and known how some of these things work mainly because of my own experience growing up. What some of you may not know, or let me just say something my father taught me or said. So throughout my growing up, if I wanted to do some things about the spiritual mapping of some of the things that run in my family, both the good and the bad, one of the bad things that I'll talk about is I come from one of those families where relationships are really difficult. You never see, siblings never get on. Families never get on. There's just chaos everywhere. There's just jealousy, fighting. There's just no unity whatsoever. And we all know why that is. Because when you find any family, you can show me any family that is into the occult or whatever, one of the first things the enemy, the devil, does is to divide and rule. These are the same people that are constantly going from one witch doctor to the next. Oh, I want to know. Because I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not calling anybody out. But this is how, this is what they've grown up knowing. I can't even blame my own father. This is the life he grew up exposed to. His fathers grew up worshiping this thing. This is the life they were surrounded with. You can't do better if you don't know any better. So this is the life they were surrounded with. So where you have a family that is into these things, that when anytime something is not working properly, they'll run to the witch doctor, get a reading, tell me what's going on in my life. The first thing Satan will tell you, oh, is that your brother that is doing you? Your brother, you're not even on their mind, they're facing their own issue. Now you go on a journey of beefing with your own brother. You came for your own issue, now you're taking potions to go and make your own brother's life difficult. Because this is just simply how Satan works. He turns everyone against everyone. Whilst you're busy dealing with the confusion, he continues to torment your lives. You find a few that will say that, oh, they're coming together to join together, to sacrifice for the gods, but even within that, it will cause so much confusion, because that will never be enough. Out of that same gang, some of them will still go to other witch doctors that will tell them that you that is congregating with them, you're still their problem, you're still their enemy. So anyway, coming back to the point I'm trying to make here is this. One day my dad told me, he made a comment, a passive comment. There's a brother of his that he never got on very well with. He never got on with any of his family members. They were just, like, it was just on eggshells. Like, there was an auntie that sometimes it's as if they got on, but it was complicated. Let me just put it like that. His elder brother, we've grown up, our houses were kind of within the same neighborhood. He will be my uncle. My uncle and my dad, they never see eye to eye. We never know why that one will say this one will say that. But the actual truth was that my dad had made a comment and said that within our family, because of the different occultic things that they serve, they've got gods of the family that choose, the gods of the family choose for themselves who they want to serve them or to take leadership of their powers, right? And this is the thing that, as a child, again, going back at all these things, what was said around me when I was very, very little. I didn't even know what age I was separated from my father, but before my father died, he told me I was separated around about the age of 9. So that would have been the age that I last saw my father. I never saw him again. But then we were still speaking on the phone for like a year before he died. But anyway, this is what I'm saying. All these stories that I overheard years and years and years ago, now they still come back to me, and I still try to think, what do I make of this? Now, this is what my dad said. He said, Yeah, within the family, they come and choose someone. But some of them skip generations, right? Like the particular God in the family, when it came to my dad's generation, he picked his brother. And my dad was so mad because within the family, being picked by those gods was like, oh my God. It's like you've won a lottery, you've made it in life. The gods chose you, they love you, the thingy of the family. And my dad was beefing his brother because he was simply chosen, and him, he wasn't chosen. So when he was making these comments, I'm like, oh, can't he choose you as well? Because I'm a child, I'm just listening to this story. He said, no, they choose only one person. And that one cannot choose me because it has already chosen from my generation. Some of them decide to skip generations. Among my own children, they can decide to skip and go to the next generation. Now, here's why my point here that I'm trying to make, the point number 2, to take insight into the spiritual life of your child. There are a lot of people today that don't even know this information. There's a lot of my siblings that don't even know about this information. But as a Christian, when you're doing the spiritual mapping, sometimes there are things you do not know that run in the family. Some of these things hide. Like what my father says, some of them skip generations. They remain undetected under the radar. You don't think they're there, but they are there, my friend. They are there waiting for the right time to strike. I meet parents all the time. All of a sudden, my child is doing this. No one in the family ever does this. I don't know what's wrong with this, my child. The child is doing this. The child, you're like, oh, were you like this? And you say, no, we don't know why this behavior, that behavior came from somewhere. Just like some diseases, as we know, some of the genetic diseases that skip generations, some sickle cell types, some cancer, some things that, even if you may be a carrier of that thing, yourself, is not guaranteed that it will appear or show up in any of your children. But then your grandchildren it may present itself in there, because the same cells that are in you have transferred somewhere, and there is that cell memory. Imagine a cells, these deadly cells that used to cause cancer in your great grandmother's breast. They skipped your mother. She never had any issues. It comes to your point, the same cell, the part of the cells that you carry, that are the genes that are linked to her, all of a sudden, they remember what they did back then, and they decide to do the same behavior and cause you the sickness that they caused back then. Tell me how some of these things are not generational curses. So, coming back to what I say, one of the ways you gain insight into what's going on in the spiritual life of your child, become a parent that is so interested in knowing about your child's dream life. Wake up every morning and ask your child, oh, hi sweetheart, how was your night? Did you sleep well? Did you have any dream? Did you dream? God forbid my child telling me that, oh, mommy, I dream dreams and I can't remember. I'm going to lay my hands on that head and pray and unblock that spiritual antenna that is stealing my child's dreams. And listen, dreams, not only can they be, but they are a lifeline in so many different ways. Once you know how to interpret them, because it's one of the ways as well that God speaks to us. It's just that most of the time we have no understanding. He's talking. And we don't understand what the message is passing on to us. A lot of things, they're not going to happen to us before God sending us some kind of signal or alerting us in some dream somewhere, or if you know how to hear his voice, he's already spoken to you. It's just that you just haven't put one and two together or understood that this is God that is trying to communicate this to me. And this is how I know. 2 different ways that I know about this particular point. As a child, I was awfully tormented. When I talk about any nightmares that you can think of, that was me as a child. In fact, if I was in this country, I would have probably been diagnosed with some kind of psychological problems. The dreams I used to dream as a child were not normal. I would dream of fighting, killing. I'm always trying to escape something. I'm always trying to run. But one thing I remember for sure, I was always wearing a little uniform of a soldier. As a child, I was always in a soldier's uniform in my dreams. And the dreams were so scary. I was always trying to be killed by something, to the point that I developed this ability in my dream. I'll close my eyes and sometimes I'll be looking. I'll say, look, as I'm standing here, instead of running, let me stand and stay still. This thing that is trying to kill me, once it gets to me, I'll be able to see it, but it can't see me. And that would work every single time. I'll stand still and I'll see all the trouble around me. But to a point, they will be confused. They couldn't see me anymore until I wake up. And apart from those, I would see like horrible things. I'm like, who are these people I'm constantly seeing? Who are these things trying to claim me, looking for me? Like all kinds of things that some of them I don't remember. And every time I go to my parents and listen, I can't sleep. I'm dreaming things that are not normal. They wouldn't listen. They'd be like, oh yeah, children dream. Children say all that all the time. But later on, what I discovered is that my parents knew exactly what I was talking about. They just couldn't help me. They knew that they had entered into satanic covenants that were linked to me like that in order for them to be rich. They knew that they had gone to the peaks of hell to bring things to make them rich, and I was linked. I was the child that was linked to those covenants. They couldn't help me. They knew those things that the deals that they made, they had already surrendered me. They had already given me over. They couldn't help me. And this is how I found out. Like I went, in my family, there was this thing, because obviously our parents had money. I'm not going to lie. They did a lot of things. They were rich. I would consider ourselves rich. The money was there. But it was obtained at a condition, on conditions. There's money in the house, but you're just not happy because of the things that are happening in your life and you don't even know. Every time we finish with nursery, they will send us to boarding school. So none of us ever tested day school. We all went to boarding school at a very, very young age. Primary 1, you're already in boarding school. So in school, we'll be in the dormitory. They will turn the light off. I'm facing up to sleep. I'm seeing things live, running from one corner. The same things that will be tormenting me at home, they'll come to my school. Everywhere I went with them. So one day, I was in my bedroom. One particular thing that I can remember, there's something that used to come. It's as if a torch would be a very bright light in my face. Constantly, to the point, when you have a very bright light in your face, you can't close your eyes. Your eyes are closed, but you can't sleep because it's exhausting. It's like it's piercing, right? That was my daily, every night. So one day, I'm there sleeping at home, and I hear someone walking into my room. So when I try to turn, because my dad used to walk around every night, he would come with a torch as well to our bedrooms to check if we are, covered properly and adjust the blankets, which he had his own agendas in a sense that every night he would have to get up and go outside in the compound to worship his family gods, whatever he was doing. He would do that every night, guaranteed. By midnight, my dad is always outside doing his rituals or doing whatever he was doing. So before he goes, he'll come to our bedrooms to check. And I knew that's daddy. So I got up and I saw him, lo and behold, he was standing there with this torch. And I was like, Daddy, I want to show you. I've been speaking to you guys that there's something that comes to my room every day. There's the thing. I lifted my finger and showed him. This thing jumped from my bedroom. It was like how you see a star glittering like that, giving off like nobody else could see it. I don't think anybody else ever experienced this. It went like that all the way to the roof, to the corner of the roof in the house. I showed him. I said, Dad, you see that thing? That's the thing, Dad. That's the thing. My dad lifted this torch and thing is that, and I could see he was very happy. He had this beaming on his face. He's like, oh, that. He's like, oh, don't worry. That's for your protection. Don't worry. He said he called it, some of you that are from Uganda, something called chibunomu. Like it's that thing that, when you're standing outside, that flashing thing that it crosses and disappears. It comes within seconds. You see it in the sky and disappears. You hardly ever see it. And when we were growing up, we were told that if you see it, it's a sign of good luck. Or just speak your wish and it will come to pass, or whatever, things like that. Maybe in other countries, I don't know if it's a thing or not. So my dad said to me, oh, don't worry, that's chibunom. I was like, oh, okay. But then as I was growing up, I was like, hang on a minute. Doesn't that chibunomu thing supposed to be outside? What is it doing inside the house? Isn't it abnormal that this thing is inside the house? But my dad knew that was part of the deal. These are some of the goals, the things that were coming to guard me as a child, trying to enforce whatever it is they were doing. I can't tell you what they were doing, but they had to be around me. Maybe marking their territory. This child is only dedicated to us, whatever. He just, smiled. He was happy that all these things are doing their job. This is their child. We're already given her over. And then he left. And the torment continued. It continued. The only time, actually now I can remember that I received that relief from those things, the very year that I heard about the name Jesus Christ, and I took him on and I said I wanted to know about this Jesus. That was the end of those nightmares. But coming back to why you should gain spiritual insight into what's going on in the world of your children. Your child, out of the things that you don't know that run in the family, your child may be dreaming them, unfortunately. Because it could be time for them to strike. It could be that your child is the correct generation for them to reappear, to make an appearance. And unfortunately, maybe they're trying to, penetrate your child. You don't know anything about it. You don't know, you never discuss their dreams. And I'm telling you now, in this life of mine, I've had friends that will call me and say, oh my goodness, my child is unruly, my child is doing this, I don't know what's going to happen. Social services have gotten involved, come and speak to my child. Is becoming suicidal, they're cutting themselves, they're self-harming out of nowhere. Raised in a very fantastic home. Very good parenting, no issues that could have triggered anything like this. And they want to start putting them on some kind of medication that, the child is developing mental health, blah, blah. So a friend of mine called me. She was losing it. She's like, I want to smack the child. I don't smack them. Let me speak to them. I went to her house. I've known this boy since he was a baby. I looked at him. This time he was a lot older. I said to her, can I speak to him on my own? They let me and him in the bedroom. I sat down with him. I said, look, one thing I'm going to ask you. I need you to tell me about your dreams. Do you dream? He said, all the time. I said, I need you to tell me about the nature of your dreams. And this is when this boy started telling me that every single time he goes to sleep, he's having a dream of falling into a bottomless pit to the point that he can feel his spirit lifting out of him and nobody can stop him. But before he reaches the ground, he always wakes up. He's seeing, certain things. Everything he described is describing the spirit of death, trying to claim this child. Because he's surrounded with so much death in his dreams. Maybe there's a premature death thing that happens in this family, or there's some kind of a spirit related to these things striking in different ways, either trying to bring on mental health into this child's life, trying to cause a mess somewhere. When he explained these things to me, I just laid my hands on him and started praying for him. And I promised him, I told him, from today, those terrifying dreams will stop. And when you ever dream them again, this is what you're to do. I was like, okay. I went and called him. I said, listen, do not shout at your child again. You need to start praying for your child. Your child is going on, is having a battle that you have nothing about. Know nothing about. There's nobody that can escape this kind of thing. Even as an adult, when you start dreaming this kind of dreams, they eventually influence your mental health. When I work with children and families, like I said to you, and some of my children or my caseload that are, for example, referred into the CAMS service, which that's a mental health service for children. When I've gone into some of the meetings or discussed with their therapist some of the things they've discussed, they'll say to me, oh, that child has a book where they draw all their nightmares. And the therapists themselves, they'll tell me that the biggest scary thing, this child is drawing knives, they're drawing blood, they're drawing a lot of violence. And they're saying this violence is something they see in their dream. They wake up and they start executing what they saw in the dream. I'll give you another example. Many years ago, I had a child giving a testimony. Now they were slightly older, nearly an adult. This child had suffered with when they were young, they were displaying all kinds of sexualized behavior in school, to the point that the school will intervene in a way that they're thinking someone is sexually abusing them at home. They were extreme. They go on to order people want to sleep with them. They want just to dress almost naked every time. They were over the top. Their sex drive was a mess. A very, very young child. And they will beat them to the point of wanting to kill this child. It's later on that this child came and gave a testimony and said, listen, me, from the age of 3, I started having something very evil that I can't explain to you visit me in the dream. The child will say that the first time they learn about, they didn't even know what sex is. He says someone will come in their dream and start to demonstrate to them. And started to do, they learned sex in the dream. This is what I'm trying to tell you. And they started living it, like they wake up burning, like they want, do something. They don't even know what they want to do, but they feel like they, something should happen to them. They started sleeping with boys at a very young age, ended up with a teenage pregnancy, because from the age of 3, they were having sex in the dream. Nobody in a human form taught them this, but something stepped in and told them in the dream world. This is why I'm telling you, be very interested as a parent about what your child's dream looks like. Share with them some of your dreams, the good ones. Don't be terrifying them. Encourage them like, oh, what did you dream about? Let them tell, and that they're telling you to take points. And also try to explain, try to interpret to them what that dream could mean. Pray over the dreams. Figure out the interpretation so your child will know how to interpret dreams and what to do with dreams. If they wake up, they had a terrifying dream, what do they do? How do they wake up in that dream and, decontaminate themselves quickly from what they just dreamt of before going back to sleep? What do they do? Don't let them just continue to struggle before this thing becomes unmanageable, because that's a different world altogether. So I'm going to end that there. Again, this has been a massive one. I don't want to continue going on and on about it. But what I'm saying is gaining insight into your child's spiritual world, because as you know, the things that we see in the physical start in the spiritual world. You know it will teach you how to pray for your children. You will get to know what's on the scene. You get to know what is trying to penetrate into your child's life. You may get to know where that anger, that all of a sudden they are a very angry child, where that anger is coming from. You get to know how to pray for some of the issues, they're having. You know how to tackle them. So anyway, I'll end that one there and I'll move on to point number 3. I hoped to merge some of these points, maybe do 2 in each video, but clearly I talk too much. I probably elaborate too much beyond where I should stop. So it's making them very long, and I don't want them to be very, very long. So in my next clip or video, I'm going to move on to point number 3. So thank you very much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.